Okay, so let's talk about the separation of church and state. Specifically, there is an article. Wisconsin just had a Supreme Court race, and for those who are aware, churches, to keep their tax exempt status, cannot endorse or oppose a candidate for office. Which, all right, fine. The people within the church, obviously, they have their opinions and they can share their opinions, just not on behalf of the church. Like, in this case, a pastor sent a bulletin out to his congregation urging them not to vote for Janet Protasewicz. And that is a violation of their tax-exempt status. You want to endorse a candidate, you want to oppose a candidate, fine. Pay your taxes. And let's see, what is the organization called? The Freedom from Religion Foundation sent a letter to the IRS letting them know that this church was doing something illegal electioneering. So I don't know, this just happened, so I don't think that it's been resolved. Let's see. Yeah, this hasn't been resolved. It just happened. And, well, the election only was this past Tuesday, so we don't know if they're going to lose their tax-exempt status, but, I mean, these people know. The first thing you learn, or you learn really, really quickly, is what you can and cannot do under your tax-exempt status. And I don't care if you're just out of seminary. I'm sure they tell you this, that we have a tax-exempt status and this is how you keep it. It's mind-boggling to me how many, and it's getting more and more brazen. More and more churches are trying to do this, where they think that, I don't know, they're above the law. And I'm not just picking on this guy because he is against Janet Protasewicz. When I saw there was a gathering and a speaking engagement at Martin Luther King's old church, which I'm briefly forgetting the name. Ebenezer Baptist, that's it. Which is now being headed by Senator Raphael Warnock. So far so good. If a pastor wants to run for office, great. That is perfectly fine. If he so obviously he has to pick a party. So that's fine, that you know that he's a Democrat. But I was uncomfortable when I saw him not just standing in front of the congregation introducing Joe Biden. First off, the fact that Joe Biden was even speaking at a church was problematic. But then the reverend was dressed like he would be when he was giving a sermon. He would be wearing his frock. No. I mean, I realize that this was technically not endorsing or promoting a candidate. I think this was a Black History Month event, but it just still seemed very illegal that he had Joe Biden there. Now, granted, most of today's Republicans probably wouldn't have taken him up on his offer to speak at the event because they're probably very much anti Martin Luther King Jr., except when they go out of their way to misquote him. And when I say misquote, take a quote that they like and try to shove it into whatever horribleness that they're trying to promote. I didn't feel comfortable with that either. So this isn't a matter of, oh, because he's not the same of the same party as me. No, no, this is illegal. And I hope they lose their tax exempt status because I don't know if it's a permanent loss or if it's just, okay, you're going to lose your tax exempt status for a year. I don't know what the law is, but they need to lose it at least for a little while to remind them that, oh, by the way, you're not supposed to do that. And because even though the chances are that the congregation of this church probably agrees with him in matters like this, but I mean he's more than happy, he's more than welcome to say this is what she believes in, this is what he believes in. He can do that. He can hand out information to make sure his congregation makes an informed decision. But this idea that he's going to tell his congregation who to vote for, no, no, that's illegal. So he can hand out information on both candidates. Obviously the congregation can talk amongst themselves because that's fine. And everybody's allowed to have an opinion. He just cannot say who to vote for. He can put the information out there and that's it. If you want your separation of church and state, you get a separation of church and state. You don't get a separation only when it suits you. Like the tax exempt status. If you want to meddle in the affairs of the state, fine. You're paying taxes then. Now, we could have a whole other conversation whether churches should just pay taxes and there should be a separation, but there's a history of bad things happening when church and state commingle. So, no, I'm perfectly fine with this arrangement, even though the taxes thing, the state could use the money, is what I'm saying. But yeah, that's a conversation for another day. But as long as that law is on the books, there's a separation of church and state, you have your tax exempt status, you need to follow the rules. You need to follow the law. And the law states keep your nose out of politics. As the church. Again, if the pastor just, was walking down the street and somebody started up a conversation with him and he was just talking as a regular citizen and not as a representative of the church, I would think that was fine because you're not operating under your capacity as a pastor. You are just a private citizen at that point. But once you do something like send out a church bulletin or give a sermon from your pulpit, then you're acting as a member of the church, and that's illegal. And I don't know why it's so hard for people to understand that that separation exists. This is, now granted, this particular organization, it skews atheist. They're a secular organization, not necessarily atheist, but they are a secular organization. But they might also be atheistic. I'm not sure about that one. But it doesn't matter. The law is the law. I don't care what church this would be. I don't care if it would be a Muslim temple. Wait, do they have temples, or? Because I know it's not a church. Or a Jewish synagogue. Whatever your religion. If you're a Sikh, if you're a Buddhist, whatever the religion, if you're in your house of worship and you start telling your congregation who to vote for, rather than to just say, oh, this election's coming up, it's important, go vote, you're breaking the law. It's just as simple as that. It's just that in this country, Christianity is the main religion, so you're mostly going to hear about Christian churches doing this. But that's because I've heard people Christians whine that it's Christian persecution. No. If any house of worship did this, it would be against the law. It's just that you're the prominent religion. And the fact that the Freedom from Religion Foundation is secular means nothing either. It's not like they're doing this to sock it to religions. They're secular, not anti-theist. But, again, the law is the law. Don't sermonize an election. That's just simple. That's just simply the way it works. Don't tell people who to vote for. You can, now there have been sermons, they've done sermons that could be anti-abortion or whatever culture wars they want to talk about. But as long as they don't name candidates or imply that they're endorsing a certain candidate because an election's coming up, like this guy did, because he just called Janet Protasiewicz her. Which, well, there's only one state race going on, so it's pretty obvious who her is. But as long, so you can discuss the topic of abortion. And like I said, probably most of his congregation, if not all, already agrees with his stance on abortion. So why not just give out the information that Dan Kelly is anti-abortion and Janet Protasiewicz is pro-choice? Then you're not breaking any laws, and yet you're implicitly telling people who to vote for. Because if that's a really important issue to you, that someone be anti-abortion or pro-choice, that just told you everything you needed to know. No laws broken. Because all he did was give out the information. He didn't endorse. He didn't deride. He just stated facts. And yet, there are so many churches in this country that are not doing that. Not just giving out information, but telling people who to vote for. I don't know why people think, and now that Joe Biden has given money to the IRS so they can more properly handle tax cheats, maybe more churches are going to get lose their tax exempt status when they do shit like this. Because I mean, if you want to get into politics, fine. Pay taxes like everyone else. If you want to stay out of it and keep the state at arm's length, then keep them at arm's length. Just make up your mind. I mean, it's really that simple. Just don't get involved in politics in that way. Give information. Like I said, most of your congregation will probably agree with you. So if you just tell them, this person believes this person believes that, that'll be good enough for them. You do not have to tactily endorse a candidate because otherwise you think, well, I don't know, your congregation's too stupid to make decisions on their own. Oh, wait. It's a Catholic church. I don't know if they even endorse people reading their own Bibles. So maybe he does think that. But regardless, just give out information and you'll be fine. Just don't endorse. I don't understand. Like I said, his congregation probably agrees with him on abortion. So just giving out the information should be good enough. You don't need to actually endorse someone. Why put your tax exempt status in jeopardy just to do something you really don't need to be doing? This really makes no sense to me. It's like it just doesn't make sense to me. I just don't know what else to say. It shouldn't be done. I don't know why it is. I mean, what do you think you're accomplishing here? But anyway, I'm just going around in circles. So with that, I will see you guys tomorrow.